1. Sound E and fade. Stand by 1.
Welcome. You're tuned to the Urban Affairs program. It's time to get up for Urban Perspectives with your host,
And
Pete Rose.
Mike Pete, dissolve 1Q.
Welcome. You're watching Urban Perspectives. I'm your host, Pete Rose. On this edition of Urban Perspectives, we discuss elementary and post-secondary disparities and opportunities.
42.
We'll meet the Council on Black Minnesotans to discuss the creation of policies that affect communities of
Stand by the
color
guest mic.
on this episode of Urban Perspectives. My first guest is President and CEO, co-founder of Seed Academy and Harvest Preparatory School. He has more than 25 years of educational experience. He's been featured on CNN, highlighting the school's success in educating black boys. And his mission is to inspire youth and provide a high-quality
Mike, guest, take
educational
2.
experience. Please welcome Eric Mahmoud. Eric, thanks for being here with me.
Thanks for having
43.
me.
You know, we were just talking a little bit about how far back we go.
It's been a while.
It's been a while,
Yes.
and it is so exciting to see the advancing and the advancement that is happening with you and the schools over there doing just a fantastic job. But we'll be remiss if we said we're not facing a crisis in our community in education. Some say it's the teachers, some say it's the parents, some say it's the system.
I got that
What do
shot
you
you like
say?
on 8.
Well, I think
Awesome,
every
thank
one
you.
of those
33.
components has a part in the problem
Take
and
3.
also the solution. Over the past 30 years that I've been involved in education, I've basically distilled this achievement gap into 5 gaps. First, you have the preparation gap. We know that most of the achievement gap shows up to school even before children start school. So before they start kindergarten, there's a wide achievement gap. My former
48.
football coach used to talk about the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So our children need to be
Take 8.
prepared. Because they come to school behind, the only way we're going to close that gap is to give them more time and
43.
support. So that time gap is important. Then the third
Take
gap
3.
is the teaching gap. We have to have great teachers for the children with the most needs. The fourth gap is the leadership gap. The leader is responsible for aligning the systems, the culture, the academics, all pointing towards student achievement. And really the widest gap is the belief gap. And so
42.
if students don't believe in their capacity, if teachers don't believe in the capacity of the children, then they're not going to be successful. So I think that those are the 5 areas that we have control over, that we can make a difference for our children.
Take 2.
Now, parenting is such an important part of that leadership portion that you talked about as well, getting that
23.
coming out of the household. How important is it for parenting to step in and be a positive force? And I remember coming to school, I used to be afraid to go come home with
41.
bad grades because I knew my mom
Take
was
1.
going to go to PTA.
Right.
And she would find out different things, but
48.
it was that parenting that also I
49.
remember so fondly.
Absolute, Pete. So
43.
you know
Take
that
3.
the child's education is a product of 2 educational
Brian, can you stop that big
institutions.
push move
So
on
the
9,
school
please?
is an educational institution, and the home is an educational institution. And so it's important
So if
that
you, like, start there and then
parents
push into a
understand
2-shot
their
on them?
impact on the child's learning. So it again, it's tied to that preparation gap. We know that children at 3 years old, children at low-income children, they have
Break,
a
I'm gonna need to slide
500-word
Pete.
vocabulary at 3 years old. Upper-income children have a 1,200-word vocabulary. So there's a 700-word gap between low-income children and upper-income children even before they start school. And the difference is the amount of vocabulary, the amount of conversations that parents are having with their children. So parents make a significant impact on the proficiency, on the education of children.
Can't leave
And
it to
start
the
your move,
games,
take
can't
9.
leave it to television.
Absolutely.
You got to read to your kids. If they see what you're doing, they'll emulate that as well.
Right. They see you picking up a book and appreciating literature and also math, then they'll certainly gain an appreciation for those.
Now, for a while, and it still continues, the
23.
debate. How good or which is the better, public, charter? Can you explain the difference for our audience?
Yes, so there's a false
Take 3.
debate. I mean, you
The
can
first
have
one?
phenomenal
Review.
public schools. You can have
Take
phenomenal
VO.
charter schools. You can have dismal charter schools and also public schools. But one of the things that I can tell you is that if you look over the past 7 years, the Star and Tribune has a report of the Beating the Odds schools. These are the schools that are top schools in the state of Minnesota that are serving low income and children of color. 8 out of the 10 schools that are featured are charter schools. And one of the reasons charter schools have a little bit more flexibility, it opens the opportunity for entrepreneurship to get great ideas into the educational system. Sometimes the bureaucracy of public schools holds the advancement of education back. So charter schools gives people the ability to be innovative. That's the only difference.
Is it as well better for students of color?
Well, I can't say it's because there's charter schools that are actually failing. But again, what it does is it's the power in the hands of the community.
Ron, for the next interview, can we truck 3 more to the left to try to get rid of those boxes?
We can solve our own problems. I have an engineering degree, so I wasn't trained as an educator, but I had a passion for community development, and the charter school legislation gave me the opportunity to create a school using innovative practices.
Pete's on a wrap, 32.
School has been recognized as one of the top schools in the country.
I want you, with the 10 seconds that we have left, tell us about the growth in the school, the new advancement, the new operation.
Well, we're excited. We actually have 1,100 students.
Almost had the wrong music queued up.
And we're going to 4,000 over the next 6 years. We want to actually create and control 51% of the seats in North Minneapolis.
That's an important factor, and we thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on the new moves.
Thank you for having me.
Musical spin and want to take, and turn him take.
Speak with the new president of Normandale Community College about her goals for
Go wide on 9, please, Ron.
At one of the largest community colleges in Minnesota.
Thank you.
Join me for my conversation with Dr. Joyce Esther here on Urban Perspectives.
And stand by break in 3, 2, 1, and break. 2 minutes. Hey, Pete. Hey, Pete. Oh. Hey, Pete. Slide a little bit to your right. Good. Let me see his close-up run. One close-up. Much better. Much better. Much better. Let me see what 3 looks like. All right, we have the 2 guests this time. No, that's the next show.
That's the next show.
We have a minute and break. Okay, I heard Joyce. She's good. Let's see. Can you do anything about those boxes, Ron, or no? No? Okay. We'll live with it. They're out of the 4-3, so we'll live with it. There's not a bar coming out of her head. There's not a bar coming out of Pete's head. That was the last show. 15. Did you miss the part where they had beer in that studio for the last show? 10. Standby coming up on Echo. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Soundy and fade. Standby Pete. And Mike Pete. Dissolving cue.
Welcome back to Urban Perspectives.
42.
The Chancellor of the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities had this to say about our next guest. Inclusive, transparent, and a collaborative leader with a proven commitment to the success of all students. It's my honor to welcome Dr. Joyce Esther to Urban Perspectives. I just got the whole mixture thing just boom.
That's okay.
23.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Well, you know, we hail from, not maybe necessarily hail from the same neck of the woods, but you had a stint in Chicago at Kennedy King.
Yes, I did. Yes.
So we know well about Kennedy King. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I guess I want to ask you, what were your inspirations that brought you to become and make a career in education?
Well, you know, I think I've always been one of those kinds of folks who always wanted to help people and be with other folks, and I love to talk, and I'm a little chatty Cathy, so I initially wanted to be a social worker. That's what I wanted to do, and when I went to school to be a social worker, I was working in housing on Northern Illinois University's campus, and I got bit by the student affairs bug and the opportunity to work with college students, particularly working with students outside of the classroom, and really being able to be a part of students' growth and development. And I was like, this is a career that I can really wrap my hands around. And so I just kind of progressed in my career, staying a lot in student affairs, which really focused on a lot of the co-curricular things that happen in a student development in addition to what happens in the classroom. And then I just, went back to school, got the degrees that you needed to get and all that good kind of stuff, but really wanting to work with students and really having to make an impact on student lives. And so one day I had a mentor say to me, what is it that you want to do? And I spoke out loud, I want to be a president. And so she put me on the path and said, okay, then you need to do what you need to do to get there. And here I am.
Congratulations on it. You're now heading up one of the largest community colleges in the state. Normandale has over 15,000 students there. What are your plans in your administration to expand on the greatness that's happening over there?
Yeah, well, I am so very fortunate to be at Normandale. Normandale is an amazing school with an amazing legacy. But first and foremost, my opportunity, I've been there 2 weeks, and it'll be my opportunity, first and foremost, to listen to the community, listen to our faculty and our staff and our students, and really hear about how they got to be as great as they are, so that we can really expand on some of those programs. We had, a couple years ago, we built a partnership center that really allowed us to allow students to get not only their associate's degrees, but get bachelor's and master's degrees on our campus through our partners with four-year institutions. Wonderful opportunity. And so my job is really to fill that program and to build all of our programs to make sure folks really know all of the educational opportunities that they have. And so we really want to market. We know how great Normandale is, but sometimes I don't know if other people know that. So my job is to get out there, beat the bushes, make sure everyone knows the academic progress that we've been making at that institution. We're one of the largest and the fastest growing transfer institutions to the University of Minnesota and other four-year institutions. So for a lot of people who may want to start at a two-year institution, Normandale has a wonderful track record of making sure you transfer to the four-year institution. So I really want to be able to do some of those kinds of things and engage with our community. So I have a lot of work.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Great spokesperson for it. I can see already. Well, how important has the student loan this change in their ability to not have that stress on them? I know our president has worked to try to alleviate some of that debt problem. What do you think about that?
Well, I actually think that initially it's going to have a really great impact on folks who left school because of loans, right? Because really the repayment comes in after you've left school. And so the impact for folks who might have left without their degree and they're thinking about this debt, well, that's something that they don't have to think about. They can focus on their academic goals. They can focus on what they need to do to be successful in the classroom. And so I think that that's going to be very helpful, because I've heard many stories of students who stay in school taking extra courses because they're fearful of stopping out because they have to start repaying loans. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so now knowing that you could take that off the table so that folks can focus on what it is that they need to do. I also think that it is going to impact our students as we start to move along in this, because it may start to decrease our default rates that we see and people defaulting on their loans, because it's making it a lot more easy for people to be able to be successful. And I think that one of the things that someone said to me when I got my first student loan is you got to pay it back, because that's how somebody else gets a loan.
Exactly.
Right? And so if people aren't paying it back, we're also, closing up the gap for other people to get loans. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I think for a lot of us, we'll be paying student loans for a very long time. But, I thank God that I have it, because it allowed me to do what I needed to do.
So important. Now, what do you think from another aspect, what would you say to a senior who is now determining their next step? for higher education?
43.
Well, first of all, I would probably say I hope you started thinking about this before you were a senior. We need to start talking to our kids about it when they're in elementary school, when they're in middle school. But if you are a senior and all of a sudden the light bulb comes on, it's not too late. There are wonderful opportunities.
42. It'll be 2-1.
In the PSEO program here in Minnesota. Start taking some classes, because I think one of the things is young people sometimes don't understand the difference in the educational processes in high school as it is to college. So, take some classes, get your feet wet a little bit to understand what it's like to go from having a teacher to a professor, and what is that like. So I would give those kind of opportunities for our students to make sure that they really focus on what it is that they want to do. A lot of our students come in and they have no idea what they want to do. Ask questions, meet people, talk to people, so that when you get to school, you know where you're going.
Great advice. Joyce, thank you so much for being here with us today.
41.
You had great information, and we'd love to see you again.
Please do.
All right,
thank
Joyce
you.
Estes,
It's been great.
Turn Pete, take.
Here on Urban Perspectives, we present
Echo VO's good dog sound
that contribute to the vibrancy of the urban community. Our Shining Star is brought to you by Continental Diamond, and this week is a legal expert in employment law, administrative law, and civil rights. She's currently the Associate Director of Civil Rights Investigation Division in the Minneapolis Department of Civil Rights. Here's a look at our Shining Star in her own words, Toni Newborn.
Sound wipe.
My name is Toni Newborn. I am the Assistant Director of Civil Rights for the Minneapolis Department of Civil Rights. I attended undergraduate college.
This is a minute 57 package watching up one from this.
And then in 2004, I attended William Mitchell College of Law, which is in St. Paul, Minnesota. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a fashion designer.
There's no bump shots, so it really doesn't matter.
And in order to be a fashion designer, you need to learn how to sew or have some sort of interest in art or, painting and that sort of thing. And I didn't have either one of those interests. And so I asked my parents, my dad specifically, what should I be? And my dad said, you know what, you should consider being an attorney because you like to argue and you're loud at times. So my dad was my inspiration, and I started to pursue law in undergrad, in college. So I started to take pre-law classes. I majored in political science at Birmingham Southern, and then decided to take a year off between college and law school, and I worked at a law firm, Bradley Arent Law Firm, which is in Birmingham, for 1 year, saved up all my little money, and started William Mitchell in 2004. Think long and hard about it. Law school is expensive. College can be expensive. So if you are in high school or
30 seconds, 30.
Start working on your grades now so that you can get the scholarship. You don't have to take out any loans. And then really think about what it is that you want to do in life. What is your purpose? And what will make you happy? Not everyone else, but what will make you happy? And start to form your decision and your path that way. But create a path, because any road will
10, stand by, come out to 1.
I am Toni Newborn, and you are watching Urban Perspectives.
And take 1.
This year marks the 500-plus year commemoration of the African American history in the United States. Coming up, we'll discuss African Americans in Minnesota and its future through the work of the Council on Black Minnesotans. We'll talk with legislative and public policy expert Edward McDonald next on Urban Perspectives.
And break is rolling. 2 minutes. Minute 20. You just got to keep remembering to take that one crane and make it a 9. do that for the next one. $30. I wonder what Chef Richard and Chef Vicky are transforming today. 15. Ooh, pound cake or something, or cheesecake or whatever. Standby, coming up 4, 3, standby, echo, 2, 1, and sound, E, and fade. Standby 1. And Mike Pete. Dissolve Q.
My next guest was raised
22.
in Wisconsin, but his heart lives in Minnesota. He's a graduate of the U of M Duluth and former public policy manager for Family and Children's Services. His mission is to enhance, through public policy, the quality of life and inclusion for African and African Americans in all aspects of our state.
Mike, yes. Take 2.
The director of the Council on Black Minnesotans, Edward McDonald. Edward, thank you for being here with us.
43.
Hey, Pete, it's always nice to be in your company, and I'm happy to be here.
Can
I
you
was telling my partner that you and I, when we
get
first talked,
a little bit more of those boxes out at all, or no?
And all
Ron?
kind of stuff.
That's right.
Had nothing to do with public policy.
Yeah, that'll work.
But explain to us, Edward, if you
43.
can, in the audience, what is the Council on Black Minnesotans and its mission?
Well, the council was created in 1980 by the Minnesota legislature. We are essentially a quasi-state agency.
Yeah, we can. Ready to go.
Is to ensure
I just wanted to get his title in first.
African heritage benefit from the
Take.
policies, procedures, and economic resources of the state of Minnesota.
Interesting. So you have a history of being involved in policy, coming out of Harvard and doing work in this area for such a long time. How important is it for us as a community to be a part of the issues and the push that you do on the back end? And that's not necessarily the back end, it's the front end policy.
Well, you know, I am a public administrator, trained social developer, community organizer, and paralegal. And
Take me. Oh, I love when people are just digging through their purses behind our shot.
That, it's important for our community to engage political systems, the administrative operation of public institutions, as well as private institutions, in order for our voice to provide some direction in how services and public policy is framed and delivered within the marketplace. So yes, the council in itself is owned by the community, and it is what fuel and drive what the council does. We listen diligently to our community across the state. It informs us.
I'll use the 9 wide shot coming back.
We involve them in what we do, and we enable them to confront leaders across all institutions to make sure that what they do in the marketplace benefit our community.
You and I talked earlier, and we talked about the efforts at the council as well as to talk about and
I'm waiting for my camera.
The better happenings, the good things that are coming out of this effort behind the policy. What are some of those things that have been happening under your administration thus far?
43.
Well, we've done quite a bit of things. We've advanced 12 legislative recommendations that we believe will eradicate disparities. We're not interested in closing gaps. We think that the genius of Americans, the genius of Minnesotans have underperformed in that regard. And so we continue to press, leading with strong enforcement of human and civil rights. Minnesota has an excellent history in that regard, but in recent years, the past 20, we've not seen a net increase in funding for the enforcement of human and civil rights. We think some of the innovation and progressiveness of Minnesota has been lacking and taking on challenges like disparities and bringing forth policies that will eradicate those. We have introduced 12 that got some serious consideration, and we believe that in this next session, depending on what happens in these elections, we will make some advancement in that regard.
How are you working with legislators there at the Capitol? You have a one-on-one relationship with quite a few of them.
We have some excellent legislators. I think one of the beautiful things about being in a state like Minnesota is that it is progressive in its nature, and you are challenged to be extremely innovative. There is not much that hasn't been introduced in the marketplace in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So you are challenged each and every day to find new pathways to grow this great community further. And I love being in that environment. My council board does, and it makes for some great thinking. We have some excellent allies within the legislature, seasoned legislative, social political engineers. And the deliberations with them have been excellent so far for me in the last 2 years.
So what is the one next thing that we should expect from you guys over there?
Well, we've are in the beginning stages of forming our legislative agenda this year. We've had nearly 20 focus group discussions throughout the state, meeting with Minnesotans of African heritage. And we've done statewide surveys. We're analyzing that information. And right now, the issues that seem to be emerging is the deficiencies in housing, both clean, safe, affordable rental housing, home ownership, which builds wealth, jobs, economic development, the disparities there. We may need to do some more things where we're targeting economic development activity and labor surplus communities.
2 minutes.
African heritage people tend to concentrate. In addition to that, we need to really resolve the issues around education. Early childhood education needs to be absolutely free. We need more guidance counseling in the school systems, and we need free higher education access.
Well, I wish you all the best in what you do, and we thank you so much for being here. We got to get you back, no doubt, because there's so much to talk about.
We need to do this all the time.
Edward McDonald, thank you so much.
Turn up tape.
Thank you for watching
Pretty
this
D
edition of
sound.
Urban Perspectives. I want to thank my guests, Eric Mahmoud, Dr. Joyce Esther, Edward McDonald. I'd like to thank my BMA and WCCO crew and you, the audience, for getting up with Urban Perspectives. And remember, there are positive things happening in our cities. See them here on Urban Perspectives. Now enjoy the Photos of the Week featuring the Minneapolis Public Schools 100 Strong Who Care. It's a mentoring program at Patrick Henry High School. I'm Pete Rhodes, and I'll see you next week.
Sound D dissolve. 1 minute. This is interesting music.
Just remember, this music is going out at 5:30 in the morning.
I know, right? 30. Hey, I'll get everybody pumped up for Esme.
Yeah. I don't want people awake enough to know that she's looking at the wrong camera.
15. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and fade. We're clear.